Hey guys, #1 Marmaduke fan here. You would laugh if you could see this from my perspective. So the crappiest tripod on earth, I've got it on top of a clothes bin. The clothes bin is metal and has holes in it. And so because the tripod cannot hold up the weight of an iPhone, I have put it inside the clothes bin to aim it down and keep it secure. I think I did it! The #1 Marmaduke fan channel is back. It just took some lateral thinking. Okie dokie. It's East meets West time, where I look at a Westaboo comic and a Weeaboo comic and talk about my thoughts. So, sorry weebs, the West wins again this issue. Spider-Man's Last Hunt. The pencils are by Mike Zeck. The inks are by Bob McLeod. This is the second Mike Zeck penciled comic I've read this week, and I love this because, oops, don't lose my pages. Mike Zeck has kind of like instantly become one of my, I call him art big bros and big sisses, where I just can't believe how much I'm enjoying their art, and I just want to read everything they've ever done or illustrated. That's one of my favorite things about coming back to comics, is I'm actually paying attention to, look, you can see both my hands in a Marmaduke video. What is this? But I love getting to like come back as an adult and read comics again and find people who I never heard of before. So I had never read Kraven's Last Hunt. I guess I never read Web of Spider-Man that much, except for a couple issues. I had this great collection of The Amazing Spider-Man, but it didn't include any of the like extra side series that they did. I wish Marvel would do that again. They legally released every Amazing Spider-Man comic ever, scanned as PDFs, including the ads. But they didn't do that for the side series. But what I kind of learned is the reason Kraven stayed dead so long is they must have respected this story enough to say, let's not touch that. Let's, spoilers by the way, let's leave Kraven dead, because if you tell his death story in a meaningful way, and it's an amazing comic, why would you want to touch that? Why would you want to go back and undo that? So basically, modern comics are garbage. They can never settle on any continuity or idea for long. But despite that, this is a very meaningful story. So your boy Zach has talked about this, so I'll be brief and I'll just add a few of my original thoughts. But observation #1, the opening. You turn the page, boom, I am Kraven, and it's hitting you right in the face. It's like Patton, grab him by the collar and kick him in the butt. It's getting your attention. Also, male gaze, very problematic. #the Hawkeye Initiative. But the basic idea is Kraven is this very primal hunter dude. Man, I've got to be really especially careful now, because I used to like zoom my phone down to not show everything. I'm going to have to be like doing like a, oh no, don't look, guys, to keep from getting copyright strike. But the basic idea is Kraven is a very primal hunter who goes into like this warrior state. And what's interesting about that is, like, even Spider-Man will joke about Kraven later. A lot of Spider-Man villains get treated like a joke, but they're actually pretty serious. And they're actually, a lot of Spider-Man's rogues gallery are pretty cool villains. So the setup is all about what a cool guy and what a opposing, intimidating foe Kraven is. And there's like this cool stuff where he's like semi-immortal, and he's mad about the Leninists and the Trotskyites ruining his country, and he wants his honor back, and so he sees Spider-Man as his biggest foe. And there's this really cool comic unique thing where they just show this guy digging a panel in a narrow panel on the tops and bottoms of certain pages. And what I love about this is a comics exclusive kind of thing. If this was a TV adaptation, you'd cut away to see the guy digging, and there'd be like some dramatic music and some drums, maybe bum bada bum bada bum, and it'd be really on the nose that, okay, this is important. The guy's digging the grave. We're going to see something happen. And in comics, you know, like I knew, okay, something important is going to happen. This grave, something's important about this grave. But because it's so small, it's almost like you can kind of forget that, and you're just so absorbed by everything else going on the page. And it lets you have like this building moment keep happening while the rest of the page is actually dominated by a lot more stuff. So it's an example of how comics can use space to introduce you to an idea of something's happening somewhere else. This is going to be important while keeping everything else moving, and I love it. So we're going to do like the hand cover so I don't show too much. There's him talking about communism, him feeling bad. All right. Mike Zeck had a thing for male booty. Very problematic. Hashtag the Hawkeye Initiative. But both Spider-Man and Kraven are wrestling with their mortality in different ways. They're both kind of coming to the grips with the fact that they will die, that people they know will die. And I like these series of panels right here, the little vertical ones, because I've seen manga artists use that as just a little transition. So it was interesting seeing it here in a Western comic. Gosh, and these faces, it's so intense. Like, you can tell that, like, Kraven's getting into the heat of it. All right, I gotta skip more so I don't accidentally show too much. All right, there is this fantastic motif with the editorial boxes where Kraven's boxes are orange and have, like, this little serif font, and Spider-Man's boxes are yellow and have kind of like standard writing. But then Spider-Man also gets these red boxes that are sort of representative of sort of like your subconscious, just sort of what you're thinking about, and then your language, the language part of your brain. So like the language part of the brain is the one that's talking right now, and the subconscious is like carpet, sock. Sock? Sock. All right. See, so the subconscious is just like thinking like random words, and the conscious is he's thinking through his problems, he's thinking about death, he's thinking about people he's lost, all that great stuff. And then it's still building, boom, 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 boom. They're building up this great thought. So Zach mentioned that there's like this great moment where we just sort of realize how mortal Spider-Man is and how he's just afraid to die, and he uses his jokes as a way to try to get himself out of life or death situations. What I really loved about these editorial boxes is I actually kind of prefer the thought balloon, the thought cloud. I wish we hadn't gotten rid of that in comics. I think people thought it was cheesy, but this is actually a really effective use of the boxes in place of the thought balloon, because by using the colors and the font, they are conveying something about the way people think that's very unique and interesting. Your logical side of your brain, the sort of instinctive, like immediate side of your brain, like the part that thinks through things logically, and the part that just says, oh, bus, watch out for bus. It's fantastic. And then it ends up relating sort of Spider-Man's thoughts to Kraven's thoughts. It's just a beautifully written issue. Zach mentioned, like, there's this great scene where Spider-Man's thinking about, what a cornball Kraven is, and then he just pulls out a rifle and points it at him, and Spider-Man's desperately trying to, like, joke to Kraven to, like, get out of the situation. By the way, what if Peter and Mary Jane Parker had a daughter? There is no what if. Peter and Mary Jane had a daughter. Joe Quesada is fake news. None of the Joe Quesada era Spider-Man exists. It doesn't exist. All right, so a absolutely fantastic issue. Lots of great expressions. Wow, kick butt. All right, manga time. Let's see here. Black Butler. I enjoyed the anime. My library's collection of Black Butler is kind of sad. It's like Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 6, and that's it. So I'll never get to see how the Curry competition went. But I kind of want to just say, like, I'm impressed. Like, I enjoyed the anime years ago. What I like about Black Butler is, well, the thing I don't like about it is it kind of teasingly says, oh boy, that's pretty risque, but it's actually, like he's got the riding crop and he's got the little shorts, but there's actually almost none of that in the comic itself. I think the rating system on these things is broken. This is older teen. This is older teen. This is just like a pretty solid like mystery series with a few little ghostly elements. And Blackbird is basically softcore porn, but they have the same rating system. So I actually kind of like the moral fundamental principles in Black Butler so far, where like the idea of the characters, he's kind of a Bruce Wayne type of character where he's just really committed to getting revenge and bringing justice to the underworld, queen and country. And mostly when I want to show you like a couple little things that stood out to me. So number one is the use of ornamentation, just for the sake of ornamentation. I think it's done to kind of create the idea of a fantasy Victorian England. It's not a realistic Victorian England. It's a Victorian England with a lot of, fancy, fantastical elements. And so beautiful ornamentation and Art Nouveau, that becomes a way of kind of evoking that idea. Here's a really great page where they've got the cross pattern and just a beautiful little ornament in the middle to separate the four faces. Towards the end, this is fantastic. So what I really respect about like Yana Toboso, I always read these editorial comments and behind-the-scenes things because you get a real perspective on like the artist process. So she draws herself as a little devil because that's like a thing to do. Lots of them do that. They draw themselves as some little goofy cartoon character. But she draws herself as a devil, I think, 'cause she's really a tough taskmaster on her assistants and on herself. So there's this great like exchange she describes with her editor, where her editor keeps asking her if she'll take on extra work. Will you design all these costumes? Yay, would I ever? Will you design this original character for the anime? Yes. The DVDs will be out. Do you want to do a bunch of cover art for them? Yes. And she can't say no. And I love seeing that, you know, she uses one of these 40 pocket books to hold everything. She finds out that Square Enix is going to make a video game about her characters, and she can't believe it because she grew up playing these games, and she can't say no. She keeps saying yes to all these jobs. It kind of freaks her out because she's like a little kid. She wants to have like some creative control over her characters appearing in other media, and then she has to keep up with her deadlines. So the poor thing, she's given herself all this extra work. Everyone, please buy the DVDs and the game. So she's giving herself all this extra work. It's because she's just so enthusiastic about her characters are finally getting to appear in all these media, and she wants to put input into that, and she's always encouraging people to check it out. Her comment is, I was simply aiming to draw an entertaining manga, and now an anime, which is the best form of entertainment, has been made from it. Every day, the creators of that other world give me new discoveries and inspiration. I decided to give the cover a makeover to express my fresh new feelings, and that's what I'm feeling with Volume 6. I love it. So, even if I have something that's kind of weeby about a book I don't like, the artists are always selling me on themselves. They're always selling me on, like, I care about my art. I love it. All right, so that's Black Butler. Sadly, this is the last volume my library has. I don't know if I strongly recommend it, but every volume I've read has been fun. All right, Blackbird, the last time I reviewed this, I said Begone Thought. And I just got, and Sex is for Marriage, kids. And I found myself thinking about Blackbird a lot because I really, really like the concept. I want to rip off the concept and do something different with it because I don't like the execution, but I love the concept. So the concept is this Japanese schoolgirl is sort of like, they call her like the Senka bride or something. And basically, like all the demons and tengus want her because whoever possesses the bride becomes like the most powerful demon clan, right? So you either want to eat her and gain immortality, or you want to make her your wife and gain power. What I love about that is that's kind of like a fairy tale idea, and it's really like this very primal idea, like guard your chastity because that you don't trust your chastity to the wrong kind of person. Don't trust yourself to an untrustworthy person. My problem with the execution is because it ends up being softcore porn. It's like they're not living up to the potential of this fantastic idea. I love the concept. So what do I mean by softcore porn? Basically, they come as close as possible to depicting sexually explicit acts and just barely shy away from that. Now, when I read Blackbird, I think a lot about, okay, where does my like prudish tendencies start, and where does like author's intent begin? Like I've been thinking about sex in media a lot because one of the things that the new left has done is I think they've made people afraid to depict sexuality or to draw women especially a certain way, and I don't like that. I don't like the idea of kind of a prudish, no-sex view of romance. At the same time, because I think sex matters, I think you need to use it in a way that is moral and sends a decent message. So that's kind of like, it's kind of like the classic Supreme Court joke where they asked him, how do you know what pornography is? And he says, I know it when I see it. I don't know if I can quite give you like an objective, clear-cut answer on how to use sex in a story in a way I think is great, but I'm just not happy with the way Blackbird is doing. I think it's mostly because I don't think the moral about sex in Blackbird lives up to, basically in a lot of fairy tales that are about chastity. The wooden bowl, this great Japanese fairy tale is an example. Like this girl wears a wooden bowl on her head. That's a visual metaphor for guarding your purity, guarding your chastity. And then at the end, she marries her husband, and the wooden bowl falls off, and she's beautiful. Oh wow! Right? It's a fairy tale with like a moral message. So now that I've kind of like had my boomer "sex is for marriage, kids" moment, let me talk about a few of my observations. So, Kanoko Sakura Koji. I am not going to remember that. So the artist mentions that the reason that the demons wear Japanese clothes is I, Sakura Koji, love men in Japanese clothes. That is a great reason to just dress them in costumes because you just because she loves it. She loves it. Now, it actually has this neat effect where it makes the demon world feel very different from the human world. Like, I instantly look at them in the Japanese clothes and I say, okay, we're in the demon temple. So that's actually a really interesting idea for kind of making visual clarity, helping me mentally separate what's going on. She also does this really nice thing where she takes illustration requests that I guess the audience or her fans suggest to her, and that's what she uses for the ends of chapters. And there are a couple examples like that. I love this one. Illustration request number 5, Buzen the police officer. I'm going to arrest you. Don't put up a fight. Now, listen to this comment. I had the police badge and uniform at home before I even got the request. I love uniforms. So this is a lady who loves big, strong, assertive men. She loves costumes and outfits and uniforms and probably dressing up in uniforms. So she's taking that and then she is using that as visual reference and ideas for her world. So a lot of people have talked about how like cosplay is a very separate thing from comics. Just because you're into cosplay, you're not necessarily into comics. Just because you're into comics, you're not necessarily into cosplay. But if you are into cosplay, draw from that. You know something I don't about like sewing up beautiful costumes. Use that knowledge to draw beautiful costumes in your art. So that was kind of cool. There's this neat moment where her dad says, I beg you, if you do date someone, make it someone you can introduce to me with pride. So I like this because this is basically a moral thing. Are you proud of the person you're dating? And then she kind of realizes she could never introduce this guy to her father with pride because he's a demon. I also don't like his character that much. There's some cool aspects to it, but he just feels like an immature middle school student. And I just want to slap him upside the head. You know, it's like when someone's doing too much aggressive PDA in public. That's how I feel about his character, basically. But why did I mark this? All right, talks a little bit about the magazine that publishes her book and all the cool and fabulous prizes. She does this cool little side story, and she explains that she's done a couple takes on this using like one character's perspective of the scene, and then later she'll do another character's perspective of the scene. The title of the special feature is Decade, which means 10 years. I drew the same scene in a special feature from Misao's viewpoint for Volume 5, so I hope you read them together. All right, here's your homepage. Hopefully it's not too like bad for kids, but sakurakoji.n.lollipop.jp. I am thinking of showing you steps involved in creating the cover illustration for Volume 4. Don't expect too much or you'll be disappointed. Ooh, behind the scenes stuff. So mental note, I gotta check that out. To everyone who has helped me and everyone who reads this, I send my thanks. And then just like some general stuff about her debut issue. So I'm not enjoying Blackbird because I don't like the morality of the message it's sending. But I love the concept so much, and I want to rip off this concept. So I may actually read it just to get a feel for that. One of my commenters mentioned that I've been talking about Conan, Case Closed, Detective Boy Conan, and Bleach, and I've been saying, wow, these are pretty kid-friendly books, even though they've got this older teen rating. And my commenter mentioned that later they do have some pretty mature themes in them. But what's funny about like the rating system is this is older teen, and I feel bad that this is in the library next to kids' books, and then other books are older teen, and they're mostly pretty like PG, like pretty like teenager friendly, and maybe they have like one little mature moment in them. So the rating system is garbage. You kind of have to read it to get a feel for it. Suburban mom intensifies. Sex is for marriage, kids. Woo!